You know how you sometimes hear about those urban legends? Like, if you do this thing at exactly this time, something supernatural will happen? I always thought they were just stories to scare people. But last month, I found out one of them is real. And it was the scariest night of my life. It started as a dare. My friends and I were talking about creepy urban legends, and someone brought up the elevator game. You know, the one where you press a series of buttons in a certain order and it supposedly takes you to another dimension? I thought it was just a silly game, but I was feeling brave, so I agreed to try it. We picked the old office building downtown. It's mostly abandoned, but the elevators still work. It was around midnight when I got there, and the place was eerily quiet. My friends waited outside while I went in alone. The rules of the game were simple but specific. You have to enter the elevator alone, go to certain floors in a specific sequence, and never speak to anyone who enters the elevator with you. I took a deep breath and pressed the button for the 4th floor. The elevator creaked to life and slowly ascended. My heart was pounding, but I kept telling myself it was just a game. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, the hallway was empty. I pressed the button for the 2nd floor and descended. The 2nd floor was just as empty and silent. I continued, following the sequence: 6th floor, 2nd floor, 10th floor, 5th floor. When I reached the 5th floor, something changed. The air felt heavier, and I had the overwhelming sensation that I was being watched. The elevator doors opened, and a woman stepped in. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes and had a vacant expression. My blood ran cold. I remembered the rule: do not speak to anyone who enters. I kept my eyes on the floor, my heart racing. She stood next to me, staring straight ahead. I pressed the button for the 1st floor, praying the game would end. But instead of descending, the elevator started going up. My stomach churned as the numbers climbed higher and higher, past the 10th floor, past the top floor of the building. The woman turned to me and smiled, a chilling, empty smile. I squeezed my eyes shut, refusing to look at her. The elevator finally stopped, and the doors opened to a dimly lit hallway. I knew this wasn't the building I had entered. It felt wrong. The air was thick and cold, and the walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. I didn't want to step out, but the woman grabbed my arm, her grip ice cold and unyielding. She pulled me out of the elevator, and the doors closed behind us. I was trapped. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, and strange, shadowy figures moved in the distance. I tried to run, but my legs felt heavy, like I was moving through water. The shadows closed in, whispering unintelligible words. Panic set in, and I screamed for help, but no sound came out. I stumbled forward, desperate to find a way back. Then, out of nowhere, I saw another elevator. I ran towards it, ignoring the figures that seemed to reach out for me. I pressed the button frantically, and the doors opened. I threw myself inside and hit the button for the 1st floor. The doors closed just as the shadows closed in. The elevator descended, and the oppressive feeling began to lift. When the doors opened again, I was back in the old office building. I stumbled out, tears streaming down my face, and ran outside to my friends. They said I had only been gone for a few minutes, but it felt like hours. I never told them what really happened. They wouldn't believe me anyway. But I know what I saw, what I felt. The elevator game is real, and it's not something to be taken lightly. I'll never forget that woman's empty smile or the feeling of being trapped in that other place. And I'll never, ever step into an elevator alone again. I'm not usually one to believe in paranormal stuff, but sometimes you don't get a choice. Sometimes, the supernatural finds you. Last week, I experienced something I can't explain, and I still get chills just thinking about it. I had just started a new job in a high-rise building downtown. It was my first week, and I was staying late to finish up some work. By the time I was ready to leave, it was past midnight. The office was deserted, and the silence was almost deafening. I made my way to the elevators, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. As I waited for the elevator, I remembered a story I'd heard about a strange ritual you could perform in elevators. You follow a sequence of buttons, and it takes you to a place that's different. I was tired and a bit curious, so I decided to try it. Just for fun. I got into the elevator and pressed the button for the 4th floor. The elevator hummed and slowly ascended. When the doors opened, the hallway was empty and dark. I pressed the button for the 2nd floor and descended. Each floor I visited was silent and deserted. 4th, 2nd, 6th, 2nd, 10th, 5th. When I reached the 5th floor, the atmosphere changed. It was like the air was charged with electricity. The doors opened, and a man stepped in. He was tall, wearing a dark suit, and his face was pale. I remembered the rule, don't speak to anyone who enters. I kept my eyes on the floor, my heart pounding. He didn't move, just stood there, silent and still. I pressed the button for the 1st floor, hoping to end the game. Instead of descending, the elevator started going up. The man's presence felt suffocating, and I could feel his eyes on me. The elevator climbed higher than it should have, past the top floor. My stomach churned, and I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. The doors opened to a dimly lit hallway that seemed to stretch on forever. It wasn't part of the building I knew. It felt off. I hesitated, but the man grabbed my arm with an icy grip and pulled me out. The doors closed behind us, and I was trapped. The hallway was filled with strange, shifting shadows. I tried to pull away, but his grip was too strong. He led me down the hallway, and I saw doors on either side, each one slightly ajar. As we walked, I heard faint whispers and saw fleeting glimpses of figures moving behind the doors. The man led me to the end of the hallway, where a large, ornate door stood. He pushed it open, and I saw a room filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed different scenes, none of them reflecting the room we were in. I saw myself in some of the mirrors, but it wasn't really me. My reflections were twisted, distorted. Some were crying, some were laughing maniacally. I felt a surge of panic and tried to pull away, but the man pushed me into the room. The door slammed shut behind me, and I was alone. The reflections in the mirrors started to move, reaching out towards me. I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The whispers grew louder, and I felt like I was being pulled into the mirrors. Desperate, I ran to the other side of the room where another elevator stood. I pressed the button frantically, and the doors opened. I threw myself inside and hit the button for the 1st floor. The doors closed just as the reflections reached me. The elevator descended, and the oppressive feeling began to lift. When the doors opened again, I was back in my office building. I stumbled out, shaken and terrified. I ran out of the building and didn't stop until I was safely home. I don't know what I experienced that night, but it felt real. Too real. I've since quit my job and found something else, somewhere far away from that building. I still have nightmares about the mirrors and the man in the suit. I'll never take elevators for granted again, and I'll never, ever try another ritual. Some things are better left alone. You hear about strange rituals all the time, but you never think they're real until you experience one. Last month, I did something I deeply regret. I tried an elevator ritual as a joke, and what happened next still haunts me. It was a Friday night, and I was hanging out with some friends in the city. We were talking about urban legends, and someone mentioned the elevator game. They said if you follow a certain sequence of floors, you'll enter another dimension. I laughed it off, but my curiosity got the better of me. We found a tall office building that was mostly empty at night. My friends stayed in the lobby while I went in alone. I entered the elevator, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I pressed the button for the 4th floor. The elevator started to ascend, and my heart began to race. The 4th floor was dark and silent when the doors opened. I pressed the button for the 2nd floor and descended. Each floor I visited was eerily quiet and deserted. 4th, 2nd, 6th, 2nd, 10th, 5th. When I reached the 5th floor, something felt different. The air was heavy, and I had a sense of being watched. The doors opened, and a woman stepped in. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and her eyes were empty. I remembered the rule, don't speak to anyone who enters. I kept my eyes on the floor, my pulse racing. She stood next to me, her presence unnerving. I pressed the button for the 1st floor, hoping the game would end. But instead of going down, the elevator started ascending. Higher and higher, past the top floor. The woman's presence grew more oppressive. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened to a dark, endless hallway. I didn't want to step out, but the woman's cold hand gripped my arm, pulling me out. The doors closed behind us, trapping me in this strange place. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, and shadowy figures moved in the distance. I tried to run, but my legs felt heavy, like I was wading through thick mud. The woman's grip was unrelenting as she dragged me forward. We reached the end of the hallway, where another elevator stood. She pushed me inside and pressed a series of buttons. The elevator started to descend, but it didn't feel like we were going back. The walls seemed to close in, and the air grew colder. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened to a dark, empty void. I stepped out, feeling a sense of dread wash over me. I was in a vast, open space with no end in sight. The woman was gone, but the feeling of being watched remained. I wandered through the darkness, trying to find a way out. Time seemed to lose meaning, and I felt like I was walking for hours. Just as I was about to give up, I saw a faint light in the distance. I ran towards it, desperate for escape. The light led me to another elevator. I pressed the button, and the doors opened. I stepped inside and hit the button for the 1st floor. The elevator started to ascend, and I felt a glimmer of hope. When the doors opened again, I was back in the office building. I stumbled out, shaken and disoriented. My friends were waiting for me, their faces pale with worry. They said I had only been gone for a few minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I didn't tell them what really happened. I didn't think they'd believe me. I don't know where I went or what that place was, but I know it was real. The elevator game is not just a silly ritual. It's a doorway to something dark and unknown. I've since moved to a different city, and I avoid elevators whenever I can. Some doors are better left unopened.
Your support means everything to us. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen for more shadowy delights.